welcome to the fourth episode of Chat GDB. Here we cover news, views, reviews, and a lot more. I am Shomili Shaha, a senior school student of GD Birla Center for Education. This episode continues giving strategies and insights on how to tackle the ISC and ICSE board examinations. I welcome our senior biology teachers, Ma'am Kinnori Roy and Ma'am Nilanjana Chatterjee. I'll start off with the class 10th board examination questions. I have myself taken the class 10th board examinations just last year, and now when juniors come up to me and ask about how to set and prepare for the examinations, I feel very nostalgic. And some juniors have a lot of questions to ask about how to approach with the questions and the reading time of the examinations. So I'll start off with Nilanjana ma'am. Ma'am, the first questions that juniors ask me is how to utilize the first 15 minutes of the reading time of the board examinations.
Okay, so the first 15 minutes of the reading time should be properly utilized in reading the question paper from question 1 till the end. Specifically, the section B, which you have to choose which question you are going to answer out of the 6. So you have to choose any 4. So out of the 4, you should choose the proper questions which you can answer totally to score 10 out of 10 in those 4 questions. So first, the choice of questions should be done, and the student should be cool and think about the answers of the MCQs, what they are going to write, and the choice in the section B should be done properly.
It plays a very important role in time management indeed. Now I'll proceed with my next question to Ma'am Kinnori Roy. Now, ma'am, I'll be asking a few questions to you regarding the ISC board examinations.
Surely, go ahead.
Ma'am, as you know, there are a plethora of topics in our class 12 syllabus, and it's very difficult to handle all the topics together. So students often ask which topics should be given more focus on and which topics we should study later or we should keep aside for later. So what do you have to say about this?
Now, this is a question that is a common question for every board. But to be very honest, if you're looking at a 90 or a 95 plus score, you really should not be going for any suggestions. Now, the reason behind it is your question pattern has completely been changed. So it is more or less, even if you look at the 5-mark questions, you will find it has been broken up into 1 mark, 2 marks, or 2 plus 2 plus 1. So it is basically catering towards your knowledge, which you're learning, but how you're applying that knowledge. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to learn every topic thoroughly. Okay, but you have to stress on the operative words or the operative terms. That is very important, because when you're writing answers, when the checking is also going on, they will absolutely focus on the operative terms itself.
Now, a common doubt of most of the candidates of the class 12 board examinations, they often ask which questions need a diagram and which questions do not. Like,
it's a very important question actually. Now, when you're looking at a question, 1 mark, definitely no diagrams. 2 marks, you may, but for 3-mark questions, definitely put in a diagram. Now, what happens is when you're answering a question, this goes for everybody, a long answer or kind of a whatever a 2-mark or a 3-mark demands is basically you write. But when you support it with a diagram, if by any chance you miss anything in the written part, you're marked in the diagram. So your score gets balanced. Say, for example, points A, B, C, D, E are required. Maybe you've written A, B, and C in the theory part, and the D, E you've marked in your diagram. So with the whole thing, you get the marks. But if you just stick to the theory part without the diagram, so you've written A, B, C. So you're getting 3 scores. The 2 scores goes missing over there.
Ma'am, are examples of such questions the hamburger effect or the Krebs cycle or the C3 cycle? We should definitely mention the diagrams in those questions.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely. You should go ahead with the main scheme. Plus, with the flow itself, whenever you're doing a cycle or you're explaining some concept, just the key concepts of it, just jot it down in point wise, explain a line, put in a diagram. The throwing of the diagram really helps a lot.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. I'll be moving on to Nilanjana ma'am then regarding the 10 questions. Ma'am, since we are talking about diagrams now, a lot of questions in the class 10 question paper include diagram-based questions. So how should we approach those questions and what are the tactics to score perhaps full marks in those questions?
Yes, diagrams are given in class 10 paper, but they are already mentioned which diagrams they are going to practice, like the 4 diagrams of the cell division: prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase. That is a must diagram. One will come in the exam from that chapter. And one more diagram they can ask you to draw: the artery and vein, the cross section they can ask. And one more diagram of the sperm, diagram of the neuron, diagram of the chloroplast, diagram of the kidney. So these are the specific ones which they ask you to draw. But apart from them, very few are asked to draw. They give the diagrammatic questions where they ask questions. But when they are drawing the diagram, they should label, at least 3 to 4 labelings should be there, because marks division is 2 or 3. So half a mark for each labeling, and diagram as a whole they take 1. So they have to draw the diagram. It may not be a very nice or very artistic diagram, but the diagram itself carries 1 mark. So they get that 1 mark. But for labeling, half mark per labeling. So as much as they label, they score.
That's a relief to hear, because a lot of juniors have been coming up to me and asking me what should be more focused on in the diagrams, the artistry or the labeling, because most students struggle with drawing. Only a handful, they are good artists. So ma'am, I'll move on to the next question. How to keep the definitions and the laws of specific topics in mind, what to remember and what not to remember?
Okay, for laws like Mendel's law, there are 3 laws, so they have to by heart them. So that needs really by hearting, memorizing. And for writing the definitions, there are keywords which they have to mention in the definition. Though they are learning the definition from the book itself, that they have to be very keen in learning the keywords which the teachers will always guide them. Like for ultrafiltration, they are writing about afferent and efferent arteriole. They will not write thicker, thinner. These words are not actually accepted in the exam. Okay, the examiners don't accept. They will write wider, narrower. These terms are used for writing ultrafiltration, for writing about arteries and veins. Okay, so these are some specific points which the students should learn.
Okay, ma'am. Then the technical terms should be always kept in mind for the definitions and the laws, right?
Yes.
Okay, ma'am. I'll be moving on to Kinnori ma'am again for the class 12 board examination questions. Now, ma'am, there are a handful of numericals in the class 12 board examination paper, and there are new additions to the question paper too, like extract-based questions.
Yes.
So, how to approach them?
Okay. Firstly, I'll take one at a time. For numericals, very simple numericals are there. If you look at it, it's very basic: addition, multiplication, division, those kinds. What is important? You will put in the formula first. Okay. Then you will put in the values in the formula. So that carries a 2nd mark. And the 3rd one is the actual answer. So whenever you're approaching a numerical, the formula must be written, the substitution of values must be shown, and of course, the final answer has to be correct. So that's for numericals. So that's very simple: formula, substitution, answer. Extract-based question, there's a trick to approach it. So when you have those 15 minutes time, take a pencil and basically go through the extract and underline what is relevant as per your syllabus. So when you're given something of an example of a growth pattern in China, so you are not required to know anything about China. Okay, but what is important? Growth curves you're studying. So you underline that. If it is stating about the growth has impacted the ecology in certain way, so the ecology part is there in your syllabus. So you underline that part. Okay. Now you go to the questions. You will find the questions will be exactly related to the topics that are there.
Okay, ma'am, that is of great help. Now I'll start with the next question, which is really personal to me too. I fear assertion reasoning questions extremely. Okay, like every time in exams I make mistakes in assertion reasonings, and assertion reasonings are an important part of the class 12 board examination papers too. So ma'am, how to deal with such types of questions? This is really necessary for me too.
Okay, now for assertion reason, you've already done a bit about assertion reason in class 10, but it was very simple as to whether one is true, the other is false, both are true. Here you have a 3rd factor added, that is you have to explain the reason whether it is correct or incorrect. Now there are 3 parts to approach an assertion reason. First is you just read the assertion. Again, do these when you're getting the reading time. Don't waste that time. You read the assertion. It's a statement. So say for example, leaves have chlorophyll in them. So it's true. It's a true statement. So you know it's true.
Yes.
Then forget about assertion. You go to reason. Now reason, Maybe the reason is given, chlorophyll helps in photosynthesis.
That's true.
That's also true. So your assertion becomes true, reason also becomes true. Now you go to the third factor, whether it's explaining.
It's explaining
That meaning
very well.
whether the reason is explaining your assertion. It is replacing. Now, if it would have said that chlorophyll contains magnesium,
That isn't a reason, but it's a true statement here.
so your statements become true, but your explanation is irrelevant. So it becomes assertion, reason true, but the explanation is not related. So three factor analysis: assertion first, reason second, then you trick out for the explanation.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think it will help me a lot during my class 12 board examinations.
Should be.
Yes, ma'am. I'll move on to Nilanjana ma'am now for the class 10 board questions again. A lot of students tend to make mistakes in writing the correct option number and matching it with the correct statement with the option in the MCQ answers. So, ma'am, how to tackle these types of mistakes in the exam?
Yes, the main thing is that when they're answering the MCQs, they should write the proper word. And along with that, the option number. Sometimes they write only the option number. That will also help. But if they have two answers in mind, they can put a slash and write the second option.
Okay.
Sometimes that is also taken as a correct answer. So if the first answer is not correct, sometimes the second answer is also taken. So it is like that. Like, we try to give marks in that way. So if there is some other option, they can put a slash and write the second option. But mainly they have to write the option number. A, B, C, D, whatever it is, that matters a lot.
Yes, ma'am. And ma'am, another new thing we learned in during our class 10, it's from genetics, it's Punnett square. So during my class 10 board examinations, I used to get a lot of confusion in making the correct Punnett square in the answer script. You helped me with it a lot. So ma'am, can you please give some advice for the juniors who are appearing for the examination this year too?
Yes, absolutely. Like Punnett square, they are doing new. Class 10s are doing new, the genetics. So there is always 2 marks allotted for a question like this. So for every step, there is half marking. First, they have to write the parents, genotype and phenotype. So there they gain the marks. Then the gametes. They have to write the proper genotype and phenotype of the gametes form. And then comes the Punnett square. So the whole making of the whole Punnett square itself carries 1 full mark.
Okay.
And after that, what is the outcome? What is the result? For the result also, they have 1 more mark. So in this way, it is either a 3 marks question or a 2 marks sometimes in a small sum. So every step is having half a mark. The whole Punnett square is having 1 mark. So every block should be written properly in the Punnett square. So in this way, we answer this is a simple form of Punnett square in class 10.
Thank you so much for your advice, ma'am. I'm sure it will be of great use to the students appearing for the examinations this year.
Yes, absolutely.
This was truly an insightful session. With that, we bring the 4th episode of Chat GDB to an end. Our next episode will feature our mathematics teachers sharing valuable tips for the forthcoming ISC and ICSE board examinations. So stay tuned and follow our series for Board Examinations 2025. Till then, this is Chat GDB.